Hi, everybody. We're going to be starting in about a minute. We've still got folks joining us.
Like I should be greeting each one as they come. Hello, welcome.
I just sometimes feel like we should be offering drinks or something.
Well, that would be challenging to manage, but we could try.
Welcome, everybody, to the Boswell Book Company Lynden Sculpture Garden Women's Speaker Series, produced by Milwaukee Reads. I'm Daniel Golden from Boswell. It is day 4,114 of us being in business. The director of the Lynden Sculpture Garden, Polly Morris. Thanks, Polly.
Hi, I'm Polly Morris, director of the Lynden Sculpture Garden. I just wanted to let you know that the grounds at Lynden are open thanks to the generosity of the Hertzfeld Foundation. We have waived admission for the summer at least, so you can come and walk. And as of yesterday, if yesterday was Monday, we finally opened the outdoor bathroom, so you can both come and walk and use the bathroom. Visit those at our website, lyndensculpturegarden.org, and you can see what we're offering. So we hope to see you there.
Thanks, Polly. I wanted to thank both Daniel and Polly. I mean, Boswell and Lynden, two magical places, have been wonderful to host the Women's Speaker Series for 8 years now. And of course, going online is a great way to keep the momentum going and show off new authors. And we really appreciate Lynden and Boswell continuing their support of this Women's Speaker Series. Tonight, well, I was so thrilled when we were actually able to confirm that our event with Abbi Waxman was still on for this month. A fellow high school mom and Boswell bookseller, Jenny Chu, who I see on the call here tonight, recommended the Bookish Life of Nina Hill, first of all, and I enjoyed it so much. I was thinking the way I did about the main character when I read Where'd You Go, Bernadette, that I sure would enjoy being friends with Nina herself. And therefore, I thought I would love to be friends with the author of that book as well. And then along came, I was told it would be easier. Perfectly timed because I have one kid off to college and I have another one looking at colleges. I was right in the middle of trying to organize college tours when quarantine canceled 2 of our trips. And I felt much of my current parenting situation was pulled from my real life by Abbi and put right into the pages of her book. With both of these books, I laughed out loud while reading them, so much so that my kids would say to me with disdain, "What are you laughing at?" And with suspicion, "Are you okay?" when I laughed out loud. I haven't quite laughed out loud like that so often since probably reading Bridget Jones' Diary or Sheila Turnage's middle grade series, The Moe and Dale Mysteries. Those are other books that I've laughed that loud out before. I'm getting a kick out of the fact that Abbi Waxman and I are about the same age. She's a few years younger than I am. We both have 3 daughters, and her daughters, I was guessing, are right about the same ages as my 3. And that we both spent some time in advertising. Abbi was in London and New York, and I was in Providence and Boston. Abbi is the author of 4 books. The other 2 that I now absolutely have to read are The Garden of Small Beginnings and Other People's Houses. But tonight, of course, we are here to learn more about her newest, I Was Told It Would Get Easier. So please welcome Abbi Waxman tonight. Thank you for being here. And I was wondering if you could just tell us about this new book, give us a summary for us readers.
Okay, so the book, hello, it's very bizarre, by the way, to be talking to what apparently is like 40-something people. This is complete silence. It's very bizarre. It's like early dates or something. I'm going to talk and I have no idea whether you think I'm funny or not. It's really sort of discomforting, but anyway. Book. So it's about a mother and a daughter, a mother who's suspiciously like me, daughters suspiciously like a sort of composite of my 3 daughters. And they go off on a college tour and they both have very different ideas about what they could maybe get out of this tour. And they both have secret goals and hopes for the tour, all of which are doomed to failure. And, shenanigans ensue, basically. which is actually how you describe all of my books. Blah de blah de blah de blah, shenanigans ensue. That's it. That's all you need to know.
As I said, the book is pretty much my life right now, as I said.
Sorry.
And in it, you describe parenting as the world's most wonderful and most terrible job, one that you're supposed to do so well that you'll get fired. So was there a moment or a situation or perhaps an incident or shenanigans, perhaps, where the idea to write this came to you suddenly, or have you just been collecting material all along?
A little bit of both. One, collecting material all along because that's how I survive. Like, I'm listening to the ridiculousness that my children often say to me, and I suddenly stop caring and start just writing it down in my head, because I'm like, I can't take you seriously. You know nothing, and you think you know everything. So I'm just going to start doing something else at the back of my head. Yeah, it's very hard to take them seriously. No, I mean, I was lucky. My oldest daughter, who is the same age as, no, I guess she's right after your first one and right before the next one. She would have been going to college this fall, and is now not going for another year. But she's going in England, where I'm from, so it's a totally different system. And so I didn't actually have to navigate the system this year, but I'm going to, because I have an 11th grader now. So it's coming. It's coming to me.
Yes, you're about to go through it. Yeah. And it's crazy. It's as crazy as you described it, and your characters describe it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I watched all my friends go through it, and it's completely an insane process that is no fun for anybody taking part of it. There's no one enjoys it, not the schools, not the kids, not the parents. It's amazing that it survived.
It's interesting, your timing about writing about this is perfect. Do you think, I mean, in your opinion, do you think any of this that's going on now is going to change that process? I mean, I know you're not really writing a scientific book about the process, but do you think any of that craziness is going to change?
You mean the COVID?
Yeah, our quarantining and not really being able, I don't even know if a college trip is going to be able to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think, it is funny because the timing was weird. The book came out at a time when it is literally impossible to do the thing that is in the book. So it suddenly became historical fiction. So that's funny. And then I hope it does change it. I think it's difficult when you're forced to, if you're paying $70-something thousand a year in tuition and your kid is sitting in the back bedroom on the computer, there's got to be a part of every parent who's like, wait a second, why am I doing this? Like, what is, so hopefully there'll be reflection, about, are we really giving kids value for money, and does it really make sense to do it this way anymore? And I don't know, I think it's gonna, I know, part of me thinks it's gonna suck all the fun out of college for the next several years, right? That our kids are gonna go to college and it's never gonna be quite as fun and free-spirited and lascivious as our college experience was, right? And then I'm like, nah, they'll be fine, because they'll get back once they're told that they're not going to drop dead or burst into flames right away, which is the only things they can really contemplate. Then they're going to go right back to having a great old time. I think it'll be fine for them eventually. You can't stop them from doing stupid stuff and having a good time, because that's what they do, It's their job.
Yeah, exactly. The conversations in the book were so similar to the ones I had, because we did sneak in one college trip with the current going to be rising senior in high school. We did sneak in one short college trip, snuck in two colleges, and the conversations that that your characters, Jessica and Emily, had in the book were so similar. I mean, it's just, you must have been writing them down. Were you writing them more in your head, or did you actually write them down in notebooks? Because I feel like.
No, I wrote them. I think I think once, it's really hard to explain the process, but I feel like if you have a good grasp of your characters, and not wishing to sound totally ridiculous, but it does kind of write itself. It's not that it writes itself, but they just talk the way they talk, and you just write it down. So it's not really, as long as the characters are strong, it's fine.
Yeah, I think that's, those are words coming from a real writer, and not just an admirer of writers, because I'm just in awe that you're able to do that and capture it all, because I'm always thinking when my kids say something so entertaining, or, you know, annoying perhaps, or whatever, that I just think, oh my gosh, I should really write that down so I'll remember they said that. And then, you know, the moment is gone and I move on.
Yeah.
Could you tell us how much of the, you mentioned that the daughter Emily is a composite of your children, and the mother might have some semblance to you, but tell us how much of you is in the character and how much of your kids is in the daughter.
To be fair, actually, Jessica is not really like me, because she cares for her daughter the same way that I care for my daughters, but she is, you know, she's a very career-minded person. She's super successful at work. She takes her mentorship of other women in her law firm very seriously. Like she's much more of a ball buster, whereas I'm more of a sort of scruffy, stay-at-home, reclusive type of person. So, you know, and that's fine, but it's, yeah, so in that way she's not like me at all. And the daughter she's a composite because she's sarcastic like my oldest daughter, and, you know, actually somewhat focused like my middle daughter, and somewhat lunatic like my baby daughter. So, yeah. But yeah, I steal all their best lines.
But I think Jessica sounds like she's like you, because she's career driven. I think your writing is a career, and that you have to be driven to accomplish it.
I guess. It seems like a very easy job to me in comparison with so many other jobs. Like I'm not ice fishing, you know, like, yeah, it's a very pleasant job if you're lucky enough to get to do it.
What about the little pieces that you put in both Nina Hill and Get Easier? Like how about the little pieces like the books and TV shows and those types of things? Are those parts of you that you pull into your book? Because I noticed a couple of the middle grade fiction books, Mango Shaped Space, and
right.
Those types of books that are in Nina Hill, and then I noticed Friends comes up and Gilmore Girls, and you know, are those you? Do you find a way to work yourself in that way?
Yeah, I mean, certainly Nina had seen all the same movies as me and read all the same books as me, and, you know, so yeah, I think like Nina a lot. There's a lot of constant sort of pointless side trips in my head all the time. You know, like just like side jaunts off to some distracting something or another. So yeah, so I'm a bit like Nina like that. I'm easily distracted. But.
Can you talk a little bit about like I feel like in both books there's the nerd power is strong with Nina, and also with the students that you know, Emily and Will and Casper, you know, those types of characters. The nerd power is pretty strong. Can you talk a little bit about that and how you try to work that into your books?
Yeah, I'm a huge nerd, and you know, pro nerds in general. And because I'm a Hufflepuff as well as being a nerd, I want everybody to play, you know, so I put as much stuff in the books as I can that I like, you know. I like smart kids, I like smart people, I like, I find that people who don't fit in very well are just more interesting, you know. They're just more unusual by their very nature, right? So those are the people I'm interested in and I like to write about.
Yeah, the adults and the kids alike are the nerds. And I think there was one line that I loved where Jessica was talking about how it brought out, having that kind of intellectual discussion brought out I don't think she said the nerd in her, but, you know, more of an intellectual side of her, having that kind of conversation. So I loved reading about the nerd power. The kids were so lovable. You know, they're in that confused, you know, really unsure state of themselves, but yet they are so lovable and entertaining at the same time.
Yeah, the teenagers are, Everyone goes on and on about how annoying teenagers are, but they're actually also just full of beans, you know, and full of optimism and enthusiasm and sarcasm and irony and all these great things. You know, they're actually hugely fun. They'll kill you, and they'll drive you absolutely around the corner. But yeah, they're also really fun. I'll take 3 teenagers over 3 toddlers any day. Having done a baby, a 3-year-old, and a 5-year-old, which is what I did when this same obviously set of kids was small, I would take 3 teenagers over the toddlers any day, for sure.
Yeah, I think you said at one point, or one of the characters talked about what was the sweet spot. Did Jessica say the sweet spot was like around age 9 or something like that?
Peak kid is like the golden years at like 8 to 12, maybe even 6 to 12.
Where they can have a conversation, but they aren't mouthing off quite yet.
Yeah. They still think you know everything. And if you don't know everything, they're completely comfortable with you saying, let's go look it up. And you'll go look it up, you know, or you say, well, let's go and do X, and then they're up for it. You know, so it's like they're sort of more like dogs at that period, and therefore more satisfying.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're always up for whatever adventure you've got in mind, even if it's really small. So.
It's true. Now I'm picturing that too, where you say, oh, let's go look that up, or let's go investigate that. And they'll actually go, yeah, and go with you, as opposed to, oh my gosh, and eye rolls.
Yeah. Seriously, like my oldest daughter said to me the other day, why are people your age always looking stuff up? Like, what is with you and the looking stuff up? And I'm like, listen, when I was your age, you couldn't just look things up. You couldn't just, oh, I wonder what, you know, I don't even know some arcane piece of, you know, crap. What is, you know, Gandalf's middle name, whatever. Now I can look it up, you know, like this is a big deal. Before you had to like sit there and hope some like really nerdy kid would come in and give you the answer.
And fill you in, yeah. So speaking of that, the toddlers versus the teens, the title, I was told it would get easier. When you have toddlers, aren't you told it's going to get easier?
You are. People are forever telling you, and I've said it to parents with younger kids myself, in this sort of, you know, like Stepford Wives kind of way, where you can literally not stop yourself from saying the same stupid shit that people said to you when you were younger. And you're like, oh my God, I'm literally unable to stop myself from saying, enjoy it while it lasts. You know, just like, oh my God, seriously, I've just said that to someone. Because everyone says it to you when you have little tiny kids. They're like, this goes so fast, enjoy it. And you're literally like, are you joking me? Like, my underpants are full of vomit. Like, I have 3 children under 5. I have no idea what's happening. But then it turns out they're right. So that's cool.
One of the phrases I found myself saying to my kids is, it's going to bite you, when they ask me, where's my, you know, whatever, where's my bathing suit? Where's my book? Where's my water bottle? And it's usually right there. And I'll say, it's going to bite you. But that's because my mom always said that to me too. So
there you go.
I said it in front of my brother the other day, and he goes, who are you, Mom? So yes, we turn into our parents.
Does he have children?
Oh yeah, but they're younger. So he doesn't know.
Just bide your time. Just bide your time. Your friend
doesn't know that it might not get easier.
It doesn't. It just gets different.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
So was the title, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, in some ways, and I think I'm being boring because I think I said this in the book, when they're little, sometimes it's easier because, you know, you can usually fix what the problem is, you know, or you can wait it out. It's like the weather in San Francisco. If you wait 20 minutes, their mood changes, you move on, right? A teenager can work themselves up into a sulk that can last days, you know, if you're lucky, where they refuse to talk to you. Yeah, but
so the title, was the title something that you came up with early on, or did it come eventually as you were writing? Or
that title took years off my life and was possibly one of the most frustrating experiences that my editor and I have ever had with each other. And we proposed about, I don't even think I'm lying if I said I sent 100 titles. And eventually we came up with this one, which I think was an early contender. But, you know, titles are a very difficult thing, you know, and never have my books been published under the titles I wrote them under. So I've accepted I'm a terrible, terrible title writer, apparently, and just have come to terms with it, and I accept it as a failure.
You know, you're talking about some of these issues, or I don't know, I wouldn't call them issues, but these dealings with teenagers and kids and sort of these life, these serious things in life at the same time that you're making them funny, too. So how do you do that? How do you pull it all into one book? I feel like you're dealing with all these serious issues through all 4 of your books. There are quite, you know, serious issues in life that we all deal with. But then
Right.
you lighten them up and make them really fun to read and sort of wrap them up, and it's you feel good at the end. So tell us, how do you do that? Is that your goal starting out, or does it just come as you write?
I don't know how I do it. It's a mystery. Yeah, I don't. Again, I always just start with the characters. Like, I really just want to write about these people, and sometimes there'll be like a little idea. So, for example, with Garden, the first book, I was really annoyed with my husband. This is a true story. I was really annoyed with my husband, and I was like, I'm gonna kill him. Like, I'm not literally gonna kill him, but like, I'm gonna imagine killing him. And just sort of turn that over in my head as I'm driving the kids to school. I'm just going to just turn that over, like, how could I do it? Could I get away with it? Ultimately, there's less paperwork than divorce. So, you know, there's a lot to be said for it, but at the same time, jail. So that was what started that book, because I was like, what would it actually be like? And then, of course, you come home and he's taken the wet towel off the bed and you decide not to kill him. And then, you know, but then I started thinking, what would that actually be like? Right? What would it actually be like to lose someone who you actually really care about a great deal, who's your best friend as well as your husband? You have little kids, like, worst thing in the world. How would that actually be? And the thing is that you would, I think most people laugh at these things. I think, you know, ultimately at some point you laugh. I don't think you laugh right away, and I think it takes years, and I think there are some things that would be maybe impossible to laugh about. I don't know, but finding humor in, you know, starting to laugh again after not laughing for a while, I think is really healthy. Like, you just, and also because I'm British and we laugh at everything, we can't take anything seriously. Not look at the Queen. We can't take anything seriously. So.
That's true. Well, it's both these books have been wonderful reads during this quarantine period too, and I'm trying to look for happier things to read about. So.
Yeah, no, my agent said that they've been selling well during the pandemic. I think for that, they're sort of easy. They're very easy. I'm trying to write. I want to write books that people really enjoy reading and are not super taxing, but you know, are like something where you're like, well, that was really a pleasant way to spend a day, or that was a pleasant way to spend a couple of hours, and you're just like, oh, I feel better. That's the goal.
Yeah, well, you've succeeded, because I mean, that's exactly what it's done for me, and I've been recommending them. And as Jenny too recommended it to me, I've been recommending these to other people as well, because I do find them, you know, especially helpful at this time.
Good. I'm very good.
I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the best friend Frances in the book. I loved it. I loved her. I felt like I knew so much about her, and yet she was just texting, you know, back and forth with Jessica. She was all text. And I wish that I had a friend who would be that, like, open and honest with me and that sassy with me. Can you talk a little bit about that friendship?
Yeah. So, Daniel, did you want to chime in?
Yeah, he's.
Go ahead.
Really, one of my favorite things about this series is, like, Margy, wait till you read the first 2. Frances is the heroine of a different book.
I need to read those.
It was so funny because I went back and I was reading other people's houses, and I was telling Jen, not Jen, we have a Jen and a Jenny, and Jen was reading. I was told would get easier, and I was just mentioning Frances, and Jen screamed, "She's texting Frances right now!" So that's all. I'm a big Barbara Pym fan, and the characters kind of wander into various the very, the other characters. So you never, I don't like sequels and you just never, but I love this because you just never quite say goodbye to people. Okay, back to our regularly scheduled conversation.
Yeah, I think, we need a family tree of all the people from your books and how they in and out.
Well, it gets worse. So the so the character, and I just always liked it when other writers did this. And so it's a completely selfish, like, this is one of my favorite things to read. So I'm going to just write, and this is the best thing about being a writer, is you just write all the stuff you want to read yourself, right? You're just like, I want happy endings, and I want to talk about real things, and I want to have some things be serious, but most of the time I just want to laugh, and there better be a dog in it. And then, so that's my process. Is there a dog? And then, so Lily is the heroine of the first book. And she and her sister Rachel appear then in all the other books. They don't appear actually in I Was Told It Would Get Easier, which is the only one that is not set in the same neighborhood, Larchmont in LA, the neighborhood I live in. And so the second book is all about Frances. Frances is my favorite character, although that is not my most popular book, and people get annoyed. There's so much swearing in it. Oh my God, people get so annoyed about it. So if you don't like swearing, don't read that one, because people complain all the time. But yeah, so the other people's house is a little bit darker. It's about an affair, and it's a little bit, but yes, but Lily shows up in that one also. I won't tell you how. And then in the third book, in Nina, all of those characters show up at various different points. And the wedding that she goes to is the wedding of two characters from who meet in the first book. And now the book that I'm writing right this minute, which look, there is the, is the thing, is about, well, she's not the main character, but the biggest repeating character is Polly from Nina Hill, the bookstore lady. So Polly appears in this one, the new one that I'm just finishing. And who else shows up? Oh, and Lily and Edward and Claire show up from the first book, and yeah. So.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, so talk a little bit about Frances, and the, I don't know, I just talk a little bit about the friendship between Jessica and Frances, and yeah, I just love how how it's all through text, and it's just a hoot.
I think that people, although I think it's now there's a book that just came out about female friendships, but I think but there is something so special about platonic female friendships, especially when you've known each other through the lens of raising children of the same age. And especially if you are both of the kind of nature where you just cut each other a lot of slack, just a lot of slack. Those friendships are what keeps you going through having children and being alive, right? And so I wanted her to have both people that she worked with, and then this friend in particular, this best friend, who is her real support system, because she's a single parent. So she needs someone strong to rely upon, and this one friend is that for her. Like, she can always text her or call her, or 24/7, 365. So
yeah, I love how it's almost sort of like something happens and she immediately wants to text her and fill her in, or lock herself in the bathroom and update her.
Yeah, it's
like away in the bathroom.
The other people who behave that way, of course, are teenage girls who constantly are in constant communication with each other. And so as the Emily character was doing that, I also wanted her mother to have, I get irritated by the sort of idea that young people, screenagers, that young people are always on their screens and we're not, like, come on, people, let's be honest. We're all on our screens, and they're, no worse than we are. So.
But at least because we're adults, it's okay, right? I remember at one point you said, Jessica's like, well, but I'm the adult, so I'm just gonna.
But I'm the adult, yeah.
I'm gonna do it.
You can get because unfortunately, you can be as hypocritical as you like as a parent. It'll bite you, as you would say, eventually.
I'm just looking at my notes here because there's so many parts that I identified with, as I keep saying. Are there any, you mentioned at one point Wendy Mogul with
Yes.
parenting advice. And so a lot of the book reminded me of the book Get Out of My Life, but first can you drive me and Cheryl to the mall?
I have that book on my shelf. It's an excellent, excellent book. Yeah, it's a really good book.
So do you have any other, I mean, did you read parenting books to try to figure this out for the writing or just for life, or how did you?
I was obsessive. I'll be completely honest. I was an obsessive purchaser of parenting advice books.
Yes.
And a firm believer that if I held them close to my head or just read the blurb on the back multiple times or read reviews of them on Amazon, that they would be enormously helpful to me. And so they were. And so I have, like a fat half a bookshelf of parenting books, of which the only ones that were really ever super, super useful were those little Gesell Institute, your 1-year-old, your 2-year-old, your 3-year-old, those ones.
Pamphlets, yeah.
Yeah, those, that's all you need. Those are all you need. Because most of the advice in them are like, take a break whenever you can. Find a good babysitter. They're just like realistic advice for dealing with small kids. But unfortunately, they stop at 10 to 14, which is precisely when you need them. I'm like, where's your 15-year-old? That's.
Oh gosh, that's so funny. I'm glad to know I'm not alone, that I collected them, but didn't, just hoped that I would somehow absorb the advice from a distance.
Yeah.
And I always found that if I did read something, it always came like just a little bit too late. Like by the time I read it, I thought, oh, no wonder I should have been doing, and then it was too late because the kid was already moving on to the next phase.
Yeah, that's just the way they get you. That's how they get you.
Anyway, but I loved the fact that you put a little good parenting advice in the book as well.
Yeah, her books, Wendy Mogul's books, are totally worth reading as well. Again, super, super practical and actually doable. Yeah, she's a wise woman. Also lives in my neighborhood. I see her walking sometimes. It's very exciting for me.
Oh, that's exciting. Yeah, do you chase her down?
No, I don't, because I'm trying to be cool. But
well, I think she should chase you down now.
No, I don't think she should. I think she knows that she's the queen. That's fine.
Oh, that's great. I wanted to ask you a little bit more about what you're reading these days. You talked about what you're working on, and I'm excited to read your next book. But what are you reading these days, and what do you recommend to us?
I'm not particularly helpful with this question because one, I don't read, when I'm writing, I don't read fiction except for detective fiction. I only read detective fiction while I'm writing my stuff because otherwise I get depressed. Because I'll be reading someone else's book and I'll just want to throw in the towel. But if I read a different genre, I'm good. So yes, I've been reading all of the Agatha Christie Miss Marple mysteries in order. That is how much of a goober I am during pandemic, and then I will move on to the Poirot, read those in order.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's embarrassing, but that's the truth. That's what I'm doing.
Excellent.
I recommend it.
Tell us a little bit. I'm going to check the time and just see how we're doing on time. I'll ask another question or two, and then we can probably do some Q&A too. But tell us about your writing habits. Like when you squeeze in writing, you must be extremely busy having, as I know, having the 3 teens around. But when do you fit in the writing, and where do you do it? What's your view while you're writing?
Well, right now it's all kablooey, right? So normally, I work in one of 2 places. I work in the coffee shop, which is closed now, or I work there's a writer space in Larchmont where you sort of join like a club, and then you can go work there 24 hours a day. And there's free coffee, well, not free because you paid, but there's coffee and printers and reference books and flat surfaces, which is really all you need. And the internet. So both of those places were closed completely, obviously. So for several months I was wandering around in the house, looking for place where they couldn't find me, but they always found me. And then, so in the end, so right now I'm working in a little tiny room at the top of the house where the guinea pigs are. And because they know that if the kids know that if they come into the room where the guinea pigs are, I'm going to ask them to clean the guinea pigs or do something guinea pig related, and so they won't come in. So this is how I've achieved solitude in my house. But normally I'm fairly organized. I take them to school and then I go to work, but I'm a morning person. So I get up early and I go and work first thing. So the quarantine's been great for me because I've been able to work. I'm not having to drive them around. So having spent my previous 4 months as an Uber driver, basically driving my kids to every different place, I'm not going anywhere. So I get up at 5 and go to work and work for 4 or 5 hours every day. So it's good.
Wow, that's great. But you had to join the guinea pigs to be able to do that.
I got to join the guinea pigs.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, they're very nice creatures.
Well, I think we'll probably do some Q&A. I really wanted to let you know that I enjoyed very, very much this book. I sort of felt like the two ships passing in the night, the mother-daughter, on the college trip together, as in real life, sort of like two ships passing in the night. One wants to talk when the other one wants to sleep. And then one wants a hug and the other one wants a hug, but neither really knows that they want a hug. I mean, it really captured what it's like being a mother to a parent or a mother to a teen. And I thought you did a really good job and made it very entertaining in the process. So.
Good. I'm really, really glad. Thank you. I'm so glad.
And Daniel, do you want to look for some questions from the audience?
Why, we have a question from our friend Nancy Quinn.
Couple things. Loved Nina B. I mean, my sister and I, we just couldn't stop talking about it last summer when we were reading it, talking, sharing. I mean, just fabulous, and recommended it, gave it Christmas for many people.
Oh, thank
Former
you.
bookseller, so, there was that added attraction, but I've recommended it to many people
Thank
who are
you.
book people and just loved it. And my sister has read your other 3 books. She hasn't read this one yet because I had it last week and read it, and now I've handed it off to her for vacation.
Mhm.
But as a mother of a daughter who is a senior in high school, going off to college, hopefully, we'll see. So it was perfect timing for me because she's already decided on her college. So I didn't have to live through this again. But I wanted to say I really appreciated the structure that you put in this book between alternating points of view of the mother and the daughter, because I often wonder what's going on in my daughter's head. And you really showed that to us. And I'm just wondering how you came to that as the structure. I loved it.
Thank you. I'm super glad that you liked
And
it.
I loved the humor. I needed the humor.
Oh, good.
It was like the perfect thing for this time, I will say.
Good.
And all your books. Anybody, if you haven't read all her books, read all her books right now.
Yep. Buy them from Boswell. Get them right away.
No pressure. I don't know, but I had always wanted to write that. Even when I had just finished, I remember when I had just finished the first book and I was talking to the editor as they were about to bring out the first book, they said, what do you want to write? What are you going to write next? And I said, oh, the next book is going to be about this woman who has an affair. I said, and after that, I think I want to write a mother-daughter told in alternating voices. I didn't. I wrote Nina third. But I think it was just always in my head. I think because then I get to cheat and have my daughter think nice things about her mother. Right? It's wish fulfillment, right? It's just wish fulfillment. I hope that my children give me a fraction as much thought as I give them, but I'm pretty confident that they give me goose egg thought, that if I'm not right in front of them, that they're really not thinking about me at all, which is as it should be, because I'm not thinking about my mother. So, it's the way of the world. That's life.
Thank
I
you.
have some chat questions. So first of all, I just want to tell Nancy that if you didn't look at your chat, Anne is very excited to read this. So, and Nancy and I worked together for many, many years. She taught me everything I know about this, except
Oh, I
for
know
this.
all about Nancy. No, I've.
Okay, so Barb would like to say, wants to know what inspired you to write other people's houses? Like, what was the inspiration for that?
Well, nobody on my block had an affair. So let me get that out in the open, because I had a neighbor come up to me after the book came out and said, "Who was it?" And I'm like, no, it was not. It was completely made up. But actually what inspired other people's houses was sitting in the carpool line waiting to pick up my kids from summer camp every day at 12:10 for like the whole of the summer, and sitting there in a line of other women in their minivans, all of us waiting for their kids. And I was thinking, they can't all be as incredibly underwhelmed by this as I am. Surely to God, someone's having more fun with this than I am. And I think that I just was interested in what other people are thinking about when they're doing the same thing I'm doing, right? You go, so I wanted them all to carpool. So the idea was the characters would carpool together and they would get to know each other in little glimpses. So, and also the kind of friendships that you have when your kids are in preschool. So you're really close with someone for like a year or 2 years because your kids really get on. Then your kids go to either your kids start hating each other, in which case you're screwed, or they go to different schools and you drop out of touch, right? But those friendships are real while they last. Like, they're real and focused, you know, and you know a lot about these people. And especially if you're a mom with little kids, like, you may know more about this other woman's vagina, having discussed her childbirth and delivery, than you may ever know about any other. But then you'll just lose touch. So I'm always fascinated by these little short, brief, intimate friendships that come up out of something and then disappear. I just find that's just interesting to me. I guess that answers the question.
It's like work friends too. Someone had to sit me down and say, you know, one day we're not going to be friends anymore, and you have to not get upset about it. So
have you heard that Nicholson Baker wrote a book called The Mezzanine?
Love it.
There's a fantastic book called The Mezzanine, where the whole book takes place as this guy rides up an escalator back from lunch on his like first day of work. But he talks about the friend who shows you around on the first day, right? So, and he comes up with a category of the person who takes you to lunch the first 2 days, and with whom you always have a slightly different friendship than you do with everyone else, right? Because you do. It's the first person you met at the company. So you're always going to, hey, how you doing? How you doing? What are you doing? What do you do? And then, but you might not actually become friends because all you have in common is that your boss tapped this other person to take you out for lunch on the first day. Anyway, so yes, in no way am I Nicholson Baker. Let me be very, very clear. But like him, I'm fascinated by these little conversations, these little friendships, the little relationships you have with the checkout person at Target, like these little nuggets of socializing. That's what interests me.
You know, it's interesting. The woman who showed me around in my first advertising job, she is my daughter's godmother. So
there you go.
A little different,
but again, like, yeah. It's serendipity, right?
Yeah, that's funny.
We have a question from our friend Liz Gersh. She would like to know if Abbi's daughters have read the book and what do they think of the depiction of the teenagers therein?
They have not read the book. They have not read any of my books because, see previous comment, teenagers could not be less interested in anything that I do. That's not true. They're happy for me. They're proud of me. They're very supportive when I have to work, and I'm like, I can't do this, that, or the other. I got to work. Very, very supportive of it. But they're not really interested in reading books that I wrote. They're just not. Maybe one day, you know. But to them, they've tried, and it sounds too much like me, and that's sort of weird. My mother was a writer, so I get it. But she wrote detective fiction. So it was it's a different thing, but even so.
My mother wrote 2 romance novels. That was a little tough.
Yeah, see? This is why they want to pretend it's not happening. It's like la la la, you know. Thank God I don't put sex in them. It would all be over in my house if I.
Yeah, exactly.
It would
But
just-
I love the way Emily, sorry, I'm going to get back into the book for a second. I love the way Emily sort of said toward the end, you know, that she started realizing her mother had those other sides, you know, from the work friends and from her college friends. And she started kind of realizing, oh, you know, my mom she was cool, she was fun, she was, you know, important. And she sort of saw those other sides during that trip, at least.
Yeah, because I think that does sort of happen. It certainly happens with a giant clanging sound when you have kids of your own, right? And then you're suddenly like, oh my God, my parents really did care about me, right? You sort of like, wow, they really would have jumped in front of a train. Like, who knew, right? Yeah, so there's that. But then I think even as you come out of your teenage years, you suddenly realize that yes, there are actually human beings who exist before you and after you, and yeah, I hope.
We have a question from Rebecca, who first she noted that both she and her mother, who read the book, a little mother-daughter bonding, they both read Bookish Life of Nina Hill, and they both saw themselves in Nina. And so I think we would like to know a little more about how you came up with Nina, and also, will Nina appear in future books? Well, of course she's going to appear in Ollie's book, or has to, right? Unless they have a terrible fight.
Yeah, Nina's in this one that I'm writing now, but she's hardly in it.
Okay.
She's hardly in it. She makes a brief cameo appearance. But how did I come up with? So Nina came about actually in a very straightforward way for once, which was that I went on book tour to promote Other People's Houses, the second book, the sweary one. And I kept meeting all these people, like Daniel, like all these people, mostly young women, I'll be honest, working in bookstores. Just how I went. All up the coast of California, I went to like half a dozen different bookstores. And they all had these awesome young people working at them who were like snappy dresses, and they were nerds, and they were into books, and they were funny, and they were, you know, erudite and interesting. And I just sort of fell in love with all of them and was like, I'm going to write a book about that person, about, you know, a really smart, bookish, but very introverted young woman. Because I like introverts as well, so.
I would like to follow that up. Did you do any like research on the ground with at your bookstore or a different bookstore, or did you?
No, I just hovered around the bookstore a lot. I just made myself irritating. You know, I just sort of hovered and sort of looked into the back rooms and like, you know, peered around when they weren't looking.
Did you actually find a bookstore that did a different genre every week with the same people?
No,
Okay.
I made that shit right up.
That's like, oh my God.
No, I made it up. Made it up.
Deborah's comment here, she said the bad thing about Zoom is you actually can't hear everybody laughing at your comments.
And as far as I know, you all think I'm really, really boring, and you're all sitting in your rooms horrified that you're wasting valuable moments of your lives.
No, I could see some faces on the screen saying, no, they're really enjoying it. So that's a very good observation by Deborah. And she says, thanks for the really enjoyable reads. So I agree.
You're very, very welcome. My pleasure.
Margy, do you have any last questions? It's not that exciting a function.
I don't have any last questions, but boy, this has just really been so much fun. And I love hearing about all that went into these great books that we find so entertaining. And it's really fun getting to know you, the one that I wanted to be best friends with as soon as I read Nina Hill.
You can be best friends. There's plenty of room. There's plenty of room in my life for more best friends.
Maybe you can just be the one that shows me around when I visit town or something.
Yes, yes.
When we eventually can do that. But it's just been great hearing you talk about the process and the books and all that goes into it. And I cannot wait for the next one too. And I cannot wait to read the other two.
Yes, watch out for the swearing.
That's okay.
Fair alert. I just wanted to follow up on one thing that you said before you go. You said that the new book didn't, not the next book, but this book didn't take place in Larchmont Village, and that's just because they're traveling. Do they not live in Larchmont Village, or do they?
Of course they do.
Okay, thank you. I was a little freaked out about that.
No. They live in Larchmont Village. And unfortunately I couldn't go back and put Emily's name in the previous book. I was like, damn it, I should have seeded Emily in earlier, but I didn't. Wait, what was the question? I've completely forgotten.
Well, I was more interested. I just feel like you really bring to life that neighborhood. It's such a different I love Los Angeles books. I read a lot of Los Angeles books, and I'm always interested in Los Angeles books that aren't so Hollywoodish. One of my very favorite books of all time is James Land, which takes place in, I think, in Los Feliz.
Okay, right around the corner.
Yeah, right, very, very close. And I just feel like it's such a, you're just like now you're the patron saint of Larchmont Village. What can I say?
Yeah, I should never have to pay for a sandwich again. No. But unfortunately, also the writers are thick on the ground here. Like it's really like I threw my spear by and staked my claim on Larchmont by putting Chevaliers in a book, right? So that was I was like, beat that mother. Anyway, so I am definitely the favorite in the bookstore, but it's very week to week. It's very week to week because we have all kinds of writers living in the neighborhood. And loads of kids writers, loads of good kids writers. And they're so funny. The kids writers are hilarious. And so they're very popular at the bookstore too. Oh, you know who else is in the next book that I'm writing? Is the love interest this is a sneak peek. No one knows this, but you guys, Impossibly Handsome Bob from the first book is the love interest in my new book, the book that has Polly.
Oh, one last question.
Yes.
Have you, you were talking about how you wished you could have backwards put somebody in the book. Have you had any minor characters? Well, you just did, Impossibly Handsome Bob. So you've like where you've written a little and you're like, you know something, I need a little more.
Yes. Also, it's cheating. Here's the thing, writing a new book is a little bit scary. And when you write it with characters you already know, it's like going to a party with a friend, right? It's still a little bit unnerving, but you already got your posse with you. So if I write a book and Polly's in it, so in this one I'm writing today, literally I've been writing it all day, Liz is in it, Polly is in it, Lily is in it, Claire is in it, Edward, Impossibly Handsome Bob, like all of these people from the previous 4 books are already there. So I feel like I'm with my, I'm like writing with my friends. So it's really fun and much easier and less terrifying. It's still terrifying, but it's less terrifying.
Right. With that, Margy, would you like to say goodnight to folks?
Yes, I would like to say thank you everyone for attending. Thank you so much, Abbi Waxman, for a wonderful session. This has been so much fun. I hope you will be able to visit Lynden Sculpture Garden and
I would like to.
On your next book tour. It would be great if we could welcome you again. And thank you everyone for spending your Tuesday night with us. We really appreciate it.
Bye, guys.
Bye, everybody. Thank you all for coming.